The Morgan Thomas Show. Brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
Here we go. You are watching and listening to The Morgan Thomas Show. I'm your host and producer, Morgan Thomas. We are broadcasting in Greenville, South Carolina. Wherever you may be watching or listening, welcome to the show. You can check out our show over on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, 105.5 FM and 97.5 FM, The Roar, and anywhere you listen to podcasts, Apple, Google, Spotify, we're everywhere. Joining me tonight is my co-host and good friend, Big Al, Alan Adams. Alan, welcome to the show.
Man, it's good to be here as always. Obviously, a huge weekend in college football. You know, rivalry week. It's an excellent time of year, and obviously, we got a big win coming out for the Tigers. So it's always a good day. We don't have to hide in shame for the next year, so that's always a good thing. But some good stuff to talk about tonight.
Were you expecting to hide in shame after seeing what Clemson Tigers had done to the other teams this year?
No, I definitely wasn't expecting it. But as I always like to say, it's college football, and anything can happen.
Well, one thing that's hiding from me is my voice, as you probably can tell. I don't have the same, wonderful voice that I normally have. I'm a little bit under the weather. This Thanksgiving break has been a little rough on my vocal cords and on my nose and my lungs. I've just been coughing up everything. But I'm going to try to make it through like Mark Packer did a couple of days ago. He just fought through it, just drop in some Dayquil and just keep going, right?
Do what you got to do, man.
But my lovely wife, had this Anderson University. As you know, I'm an undergrad of the Trojans and master's degree of the Clemson Tigers. But got this Anderson University Trojans mug with some hot tea and honey. So hopefully that'll get me through for the next hour. Al, we've got this show. We got 3 segments as we always do. But then coming up at 9 o'clock is the Clemson men's basketball game, the Big Ten ACC Challenge versus Minnesota, which is going to be a very difficult game for them. As you know, they finished up November 5-2, lost their first game and lost their last game in November. First game was against Virginia Tech, which, come to find out, is a pretty good team. And then the last game against the Colorado team, which they had a chance to win going to the very last 3 minutes of the game. I actually, on YouTube exclusive, did a play-by-play last week, and they had a chance to win. And it was nice to see Clemson be able to stay competitive in a top 25 team, one of the best teams in the Pac-12. Yep. I know they didn't get the win, and I know people are going to say same old, but there are some things in there. If Tevin Mack and Amir Sims can get on the same page at the same night, they look good. They look really good. Yep. Unfortunately for Minnesota, it's going to be a difficult game for them because they've got a big man, Oturu, big guy down low that's just going to, more than likely, we're assuming he's going to dominate Clemson because Clemson does not have a legitimate guard or a legitimate center big man. I mean, they have Trey Jemison, but he's really more of a guy that is there to give Amir Sims a rest. Mm-hmm. But anyways, I had that on my mind. I know people are already saying in the chat, hey, the game's coming up at 9 o'clock. I'm torn. Do I watch this show? Do I watch the game? Well, make your decision. I know we have to do our show 8:30 to 9:30, but if you want to go watch the Clemson men's basketball game, you can for sure.
No, there's no decision to be made. You watch the show and you watch the game. All right, you can listen to the show. How about that? Listen to the show, watch the game. Put the game on mute, listen to the show. It's good stuff.
There you go. Hey, we have a solution for you. I want to let you know that tonight's show is presented by Black's Tire Inc. in Westminster, South Carolina, family owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for a friendly professional to help answer your questions, check out Black's Tire Inc., located 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina. Give them a call, 864-647-9292. Over on YouTube right now, Al, I have 12 watching. I can't really tell on Twitter. It always shows me 1, but then we have like 60 people over on Twitter. So if you're on Twitter, give me a shout. If you're on YouTube, give me a shout. And people are already saying, suck it up and fight through the sickness. And I'm here for you. That's why I'm here. I appreciate that, Rusty. But got 14, still climbing. Make sure you like the video and share it. Al, what we looking like on Facebook?
We're looking really good. We got about 34 watching right now. Let's see. We got some regulars. Some John and Kevron are with us as usual. My mom joined in. My cousin Jenny Lynn joined in, and we have Trip, Dodie, Cody is with us as well. So we got a lot of people, a lot of activity over here on Facebook. So let's get in some content and kind of satisfy their craving for some Tiger talk, my friend.
And just to let you know, we do have open phone lines at our Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina. Phone lines, 864-772-6674. 864-772-6674 is the number to call. 2 open phone lines for you, and they're open right now, so jump in if you want to talk about something. But let's get over to segment number 1, which is our Rivalry Loser Support Group. I thought this was going to be kind of a fun play on words there, but last Saturday was the Rivalry Week, and, you had some people who won, like our Clemson Tigers, and then you had some teams that didn't do so well. And some of them were pretty surprising that they didn't do so well. Some of them that we picked to actually win the game in our picks against the spread segment that ended up not actually winning the game. And so we wanted to kind of go through them, give you a little bit about the good and bad from the game, and then also kind of give you an insight on what they look like going into the future, into the 2020 season. And I'll start it off with the biggest team to earn a loss, I guess you could say, earn a quality loss, and that was Alabama. The Crimson Tide, they ended up putting up more total yards than Auburn, 515 total yards. They had more first downs than Auburn, and they actually had time of possession 11 minutes more than Auburn. But on the flip side, Mac Jones threw 2 pick sixes, which if you throw pick 6-1, it's difficult to win any game. Yeah. You throw 2 of them, especially one that was awesome. It was kind of like off of his butt or his lower back, bounced into the guy's hand, and he ran it back for 100 yards. That's the kind of plays you don't normally see, but it's just really cool to see when they do happen. But 2 pick sixes and then a missed field goal. Man, how many times does Clemson or Alabama miss a field goal and it doesn't seem to matter? But in this case, it did matter, and they ended up losing. Al, what were your quick thoughts on the game, and what do you see them going into next year? Because some people are saying Alabama has now slipped, and they're not going to come back anytime soon. The dynasty is over.
Yeah, that's a pretty good question. I think the game is much like you described it. I mean, those big mistakes for Alabama really cost them. Obviously, the refs gave Auburn a little push there for that halftime field goal, which I think was garbage. And I'm not one to side with Alabama, but that was kind of rough for them. And of course, the missed field goal as well. It's just crazy. It's just one of those nights where the Knicks finally did Alabama's way. It doesn't happen very often, but as you said, is the Tide dynasty over? I think more signs right now point to yes than no. And it's not to say that, Alabama's, all of a sudden going to drop out of the top 25. I would imagine they're going to be a contender as usual. But, I mean, they lose a ton on offense this year. Obviously, Tua will be gone. Their wide receivers, they had a ton of big-time, upperclassmen receivers. They are gone. Okay, that's going to be some huge losses for them there. And then you got a defense coming back next year that, really wasn't all that good this year. To be honest, that's kind of been one of their weak points all this year. Even when they played any decent kind of offense, they've given up a ton of points. So it's not a strength. So I'm not really sure what they're looking like coming into next year. I don't think there's a lot of – I don't want to say there's not a lot of hope because, again, they're Alabama. They're going to be up at the top of the West. But it's LSU's emergence, I think, more than anything that's going to be kind of tough for them. They took Joe Burrow, who didn't do anything for his first few years, and all of a sudden – he kills it this year. Absolutely a stud, going to top of the Heisman list, that kind of stuff. He's just kind of come out of nowhere. I think they're going to kind of ride the hot streak, ride the momentum, get some big time recruits from all this. And, I think people are kind of thirsty for somebody other than Alabama to be that team. And I think LSU has a good chance to do it in the West here for the near future.
Yeah, LSU was one of those teams that we said we projected them to beat Alabama. Early on in the season, we felt like that was a game to circle for sure, and they ended up, doing that and causing Alabama some problems with one loss. And then, for Clemson fans, I think we were all kind of still concerned about, especially me, I can speak for myself, concerned about them, sneaking their way back into the top 4. And now after that second loss, it's over with for them. I'll tell you, though, they have the number 4 recruiting class per Rivals right now for 2020. Bryce Young, a guy from Mater D who is in California, who is DJ Uyunglele's rival over there in California, and they have had 2 games this year. They won the first game, Bryce's team, and then this most recent game, DJ's team won. And he came back. I think he came back on a 34-0 run, Al, in that game last Friday night. So, they're going to have a good quarterback coming in. They're going to have they've missed on a couple of big-time recruits, but their 5-star running back should be coming back, but they're losing a couple of their wide receivers. The good thing is Jalen Waddle is a sophomore. So, there's some good things there. It's kind of hard to say. Alabama's been so good for so long. Hard to say for me that their dynasty is over, unless you're saying that Clemson is replacing them. Then I'm all on board for that. Now, but Nick Saban's not gonna stop being himself. But I do feel like that people are starting to get closer and closer to that level, and maybe emulating him in some ways in how they recruit and how they compete on the field and the things that they look for. So it'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I hope that the Alabama dynasty is replaced by the Clemson dynasty. Next one up, this was more of a shock. We're all kind of shocked on this when we picked this team. This is from the ACC, but you can't really ever pick anything from the Coastal Division, really, to be honest. Virginia Tech. All right, so we didn't expect them to be good this year. We didn't expect them to be in the race for the division. They lost to BC at the first game of the year. They got destroyed by Duke. They struggled against Old Dominion. They struggled against Furman. Furman actually, I believe, was winning at halftime. And then they changed over to Hendon Hooker, and the team just seemed to take off. Now, the bad thing is Bud Foster's retiring. Replacing, who knows? Who knows going to replace him right now? Rumor is that Barry Odom, the guy that just got fired, the head coach from Missouri, is going to take over as the defensive coordinator, but he's still not. A lot of people don't believe he's equal to Bud Foster, which who is equal to Bud Foster? I mean, to be that good for that long of a period, he's an irreplaceable defensive coordinator for sure.
Yep. But
Virginia Tech ended up losing a really cool battle. I mean, it was a good battle. They just could not stop Bryce Perkins. We thought they could. We thought they had the answer. Hendon Hooker. Perkins would score a touchdown. Hooker would score a touchdown. They'd go back and forth, but eventually it was not Virginia was too good for them, and they actually won that game, the 16th game. After losing 15, Virginia finally won one. I think the future looks bright for Virginia Tech, but what do you think?
Yeah, I think they're on the right track. It's kind of been a long time coming for them. They used to be obviously a dominant program, 10 wins every season. They play in Beamer Ball. Like you said, they finally snapped the 15-game losing streak to Virginia Tech. Virginia did a really good job there. A lot of third and longs that were converted by long runs, chunk yardage from Bryce Perkins. He did an awesome job there. Hokies had some turnover trouble as well. I think they had 2 fumbles, 2 INTs, including that costly one at the end, obviously, that fell in the end zone, and Virginia covered for a touchdown to kind of seal it. But yeah, I think they've got some hope going forward. It's they only replaced one guy on defense, and that's Reggie Floyd. So I mean, really, that could be a really a strong point for them next year. But is it going to matter that Bud Foster is not there? Was he kind of the key to this whole defense? Was it more players? Was it more scheme? We're about to find out. Okay, because they're going to have the same players next year, but you're going to have a completely different guy there calling the shots. So obviously everybody knows Bud Foster. He's well known throughout college football. I think the only equal to Bud Foster is probably Brent Venables. And I would say better in some respects. Obviously, maybe not the tenure, but he'll get there eventually. I feel quite sure. So yeah, we all like that, and I think they're on a step forward. I mean, they're going to have Hendon Hooker coming back, I would imagine. So they'll have their main weapon on offense as well. So I think things are looking up for Virginia Tech. I would imagine they're going to be the leader in the clubhouse for the Coastal Division next year.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. I think that Virginia Tech is definitely a team that has a bright future with Hendon Hooker. They don't really have that good of a recruiting class right now, 77th overall per Rivals, but they were in the top 30 the last 3 years. So I feel like that there's still some ground to be made up there for Justin Fuente there and the Hokies. Next one I had on my list was Michigan, a team that I think we all picked to lose the game. Shea Patterson came out starting pretty strong, pretty hot, 250 yards passing in the first half alone. But the bad is that they gave up 577 yards total and 56 points to Ohio State. Some people are saying, hey, this is a new Michigan team, but same results. No defense, no running game, still can't beat Ohio State. They have a top 10 class this year and last year, but some people are still scratching their head. Can Jim Harbaugh do what it needs to do to beat Ohio State and take control of their division in the Big Ten?
Yeah, obviously in that game, that was an interesting game. They kind of kept it close there early. The turnover and inside the red zone really cost them there early in the game, kind of completely switched the momentum. And Ohio State just kind of, ran away with it from there. Buckeyes won 8 in a row, like you said. This is, and some of those haven't even been close. About half of them haven't even really been close. So they have completely been dominant over the Wolverines. It's kind of a way to, hang their head in shame. I mean, Jim Harbaugh cannot get over that hump at all. And next year, they lose 3 of their starting linebackers, which is tough because they run the 3-4 scheme. That's really difficult to replace all that talent there. So it's going to be a little bit of a different story from next year. I think their defense will obviously take a step back. I don't see how you lose 3 of 4 starting linebackers in a 3-4 and not take a step back. So it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. I'm actually going to be really interested to see this offseason if Jim Harbaugh's seat becomes a little bit hotter than it has been. See if a possible replacement is on board. I don't know if they've mentioned anything about that. I hadn't got to check a lot of the press clippings this afternoon if anything's been announced, but I'd like to see if he's kind of questioned about whether they're going to retain him or whether they're going to get rid of him and find somebody else.
Next team up on my list is one that's kind of a team that we're familiar with because Clemson played this year and last year, and the coach, someone who Dabo Swinney is very familiar with, and Jimbo Fisher. They just got destroyed by LSU. They seem to be one of those front runners in the West who are going to contend with the West, but then couldn't win any big games really, and had a struggle to get anything going on the offense, struggle with the offensive line, struggle with the running backs. Kellen Mond looked scared most of the time when he was in clutch situations, didn't know what to do, but they have a top 5 recruiting class right now, 6th overall recruiting class last year. They're bringing in a pair of really good wide receivers in this next as freshmen coming in. But do you think that Texas A&M has what it takes? Jimbo Fisher's making a lot of money over there. Do you think they have what it takes to fight consistently with Alabama and now LSU?
Well, next year I think is going to be a really good shot if they can just get any kind of consistency at quarterback. If they can get any kind of consistency from Kellen Mond, obviously we see some of the games he has, like Clemson last year or something like that, where he just goes off and then he'll just be completely dormant for an entire game. If they can get more consistency out of him, I think they have a good shot next year. They only lose one guy, Colton Prater, who's their center on offense, and on defense, they have one senior defensive end, and Michael Clemens. Now, of course, this isn't accounting for any juniors that might go early or leave for transfer portal or anything like that. But those are the seniors on the roster that we know they're going to lose. It's one on offense, one on defense. Okay, so both units look to take a significant step forward. I think it's going to be a really interesting battle next year, and I think you're going to look at A&M and Alabama and LSU as kind of those top teams in the West. Maybe even an Auburn in there as well with Bo Nix, I would say. It's going to be a pretty tight 4-team race, I would think. I'd like to see where those games are going to be played, who's got home field advantages on their schedule and that kind of thing, because I think it's going to be an awesome division next year in the SEC West.
One I thought was kind of interesting was Minnesota. This was a team I believe you picked to win the game, and I picked Wisconsin to win the game.
Yep.
Minnesota, obviously, PJ Fleck has done a really good job, rowed the boat out there. They're 10-2, 7-2 in the conference. They struggled in one-on-one coverage. It seemed like Wisconsin looked for those one-on-one deep balls. You would think Wisconsin would run all over them. Well, they didn't. They actually tried to throw the ball a ton, and they had a lot of success with throwing it deep against them and throwing it to the outside. Kind of looked like Clemson a little bit, trying to find those one-on-one matchups. Even found Jonathan Taylor in one-on-one deep for a touchdown. But it seems like that Minnesota is kind of one-dimensional right now. They don't really have a running back that they can rely on, so they just pass the ball too. So it was a lot of back and forth, but a lot of snow too. It was kind of like one quarter no snow, next quarter snow, next quarter no snow, next quarter snow. But in the end, I felt like with the bad weather, with the fact that be a tight game, with the fact that it was with the conference on the line, I felt like a better defense and a better running game would win, and Wisconsin ended up winning. Now, next year, Minnesota has a 32nd overall recruiting class per Rivals, better than they've done in the past 6 or 7 years. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people believe that Minnesota's on the up and up, and they've renegotiated his contract to keep him there so he doesn't jump to places like FSU or maybe Arkansas or anywhere else. I think things are looking up for Minnesota. They still got to figure out a way, though, to beat Wisconsin.
Yeah, absolutely. I think things may be looking up, kind of as this year and PJ Fleck and all that kind of stuff. They've got all the momentum right now. They had a big season as far as Minnesota's concerned, especially. But I got to tell you, man, they lose their wide receiver, Tyler Johnson, and their running back, Rodney Smith, on offense, and that's really it. But if I'm reading this website correctly that I went through today, okay, they're going to lose their entire starting defensive line. Okay, they're all seniors. They're losing both starting linebackers and 2 defensive backs. All right, I mean that is an insane hit to a defense. All those senior players are graduate transfers, something like that. I think the kind of question is going to be, like you said, they renegotiated PJ Fleck's contract. Do they keep their head coach? Does he find a way? Does somebody buy him out and kind of bring him over? I think he's going to be a hot name in almost every big time coaching search there's going to be from here on out. But with all that starting talent lost on defense, I look for Minnesota to take one of the biggest steps back from teams from this year to next year. I just don't really think they're going to be able to do anything because their defense was, kind of held them for a lot of the season. They had a really aggressive defense, and it's just going to be tough to replace all that talent that quickly. PJ Fleck's a good guy to do it. He's a good recruiter, but it's going to take him a little time, and I don't know that he's going to be ready for it next year.
That's one of the things I love about doing this show is that we can get a look into different teams, kind of have a better idea of the college football landscape. And that's not something that I anticipated you saying, but definitely something to take a look at. How will they respond with losing so much going into the next year? Now, could they respond like a Clemson, or could they respond, a lot less than that? The last team I wanted to talk about, really, we had a couple of others, but for time's sake, we'll skip them. Maybe talk about them in the next couple of episodes. But the team that people seem to care about a lot, on the Clemson side of things, is the other team in the state. They just played Clemson and it really was an uneventful night, to be honest with you. I mean, they scored 3 points off of a field goal. But after the game, a lot of changes were made. Offensive coordinator Brian McClendon no longer going to be calling plays. They said he was fired, but then they said he might not be fired. He might still be on staff, but just not doing the same things that he was doing. The strength and conditioning coach, Jeff Dillman, gone. The quarterback coach, Dan Werner, out. And so a lot of shakeup over in Columbia. They're not going to go to a bowl. So this was the last game of the season for them. The game in itself was not exciting. Wasn't even really that fun to watch the commercials in between the game. I just wanted to go and try to find another game that was on during that time slot. But and then at the end, fans weren't showing up. I mean, Clemson fans were saying, let's go out there, let's paint it orange. And they definitely did. Majority of the stadium that was left towards the end of the game was in orange. So next year for me, though, there's that bright shining star. There's that Luke Doty. Am I saying it right?
Luke Doty, yep.
Luke Doty, quarterback. Zach Pickens hopefully can get healthy and dominate in the defensive line that they can expect him to do. They have number 19th ranked class in recruiting per Rivals right now, so not a bad recruiting class. Mm-hmm. And they just upgraded their new facilities. I know that ESPN love to talk about their facilities during the broadcast.
Yeah.
5 or 6 times they talked about the facilities. So hopefully that will help. I know that Clemson built everything that they have now on their facilities and their slide, But there's also some other things that Clemson built their program on, and that's the culture. And I think you see that in the strength and conditioning coach being let go, because people have said in the group chat and on Facebook, Twitter, what does it matter about the strength and conditioning coach? He's just there to help you lift weights, right? He's just there to keep you strong. That could be further from the truth. Okay, the strength and conditioning coach really is the one coach that can hang out with the players almost the entire year. Right. Now, players can't always pick up a football and go, and the coaches can't always watch them run plays or go through a playbook. They can't always be in meetings, but they typically, no matter what the NCAA rules are, they typically can go to the weight room. And you got to have that guy in there, that strength and conditioning guy that builds up that kind of culture that you want. And so I think that it's a showing sign that that's who they got rid of, one of the players, one of the coaches that they got rid of. Do you feel like that these are good moves for South Carolina? Do you feel like there's going to be any positive momentum, if there can be any, going into next year?
Well, obviously, I guess time will tell on their moves and what they've done here. Obviously, there's got to be a scapegoat. If the head coach doesn't go, there's got to be a scapegoat somewhere. So he found some. He got rid of them. He made some moves. So we'll see if those pay off for him in the end. Look, I think the biggest thing going into next year is the fact that they lose their top playmaker in Brian Edwards. They also lose their top 2 running backs, Enrico Dowdle and Tavian Feaster. All right, they're all gone. So your offensive production is gone. They lose one guy on the offensive line, Donnell Stanley. The rest of their 2 deep's pretty intact there on the offensive line. Now, whether that's a good thing or not, I guess is debatable. They haven't been really world beaters there on offensive line, but that's going to be a huge deal. Can they, are they going to stick with Ryan Helinski? Are they going to, bring a freshman along like Luke Doty? I think Doty has a lot of ability. I still think Ryan Helinski has some ability as well. So we'll kind of watch them duel it out, see how things go. Now, on the defensive side of the ball, they lose three, 4 starting linemen. Javon Kinlaw obviously being the big one. He's probably going to be a first-round draft pick this year. They'll lose Smith and Wanham as well. Those are Wanham's definitely a good playmaker. There's some ability there that they're going to lose. A lot of their impact is kind of going to be gone there. They also lose linebacker T.J. Brunson as well. So, I mean, some of their main playmakers on offense and defense are going to be gone. They actually have, like you said, a decent recruiting class. One of those running backs is going to be replaced by, it was a former 5-star running back, Marshawn Lloyd. I think he's rated a 4-star now, depending on which service you look at. So they have some talent coming in. But, in the schedule actually lightens up a bit for them next year. I think they can get somewhere between 5 and 7 wins. So it'll be probably an improvement over this year, but I don't know that it's going to be a huge step forward. And I think must-champ seat is going to be even hotter next year.
Let us know what you think over in the comments on Facebook, YouTube, or hey, if you're even watching over on Twitter right now. If you want to get in on the conversation live, we have a call-in number. That's the Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina hotline, 864-772-MORG, 6674, 864-772-6674. We have 2 open phone lines right now. Al, over on YouTube, we have 27 people watching. Thank you so much for the love and support over there. Make sure you like the video and you share the video wherever you see fit so that your friends can know about our show. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers over on YouTube. We're right at, I think, over 630 something or so, and about a minute away until the game starts. So I know we're going to be bouncing back and forth. We're going to be talking about the game. We'll get updates. Give us some live updates in the chat. But Al, how many you got over on Facebook?
Yeah, we got 33 right now. I saw my wife jump in and Evan jumped in. Jordan, Tim, Kaylee, Audrey. About time Audrey got in, Brady, Denise, Tom is in with us. Tom's being good and active on the chat line here. I see Tyler and Toby joining us as well. So we're killing it over here on Facebook. As usual, these guys are good. So get in on the comments, get on the phone lines and get with us. Give us your thoughts, ask us a question, and just kind of give us something to talk about here. I mean, we know y'all want to watch the game. We understand that. Leave us on, okay? You can listen to us and watch the game at the same time. But get in with your questions. We want to see what you have to say.
Chris over on YouTube is asking or saying that he was glad to see Dabo stick up for the program after the game. He feels like if Ohio State or Alabama or LSU had won as many national championships in the short amount of time, or even 27 games straight, that ESPN would be constantly praising them instead of criticizing them or finding flaws in the team. I know that was pretty controversial, or I don't feel like it was controversial, but I know a lot of people felt like that outside of the Clemson, bubble, felt like it was controversial of Dabo to kind of call out Georgia. We actually already called out Georgia, 2 weeks ago? Yeah. So Dabo must be just taking a page from our book, because we already talked about that. So there's no reason for us to be upset with it, because he's just echoing what we already said in episode 46. So, we believe that Clemson, it goes back to what Dabo said. They look at the score, or they look at who they played, but they don't look at how they played. This team has gone 12 games in a row. And by the way, Ohio State let Michigan jump all over them as far as total yards go. But this team is the only team left to go 12 games and holding the team, all their opponents under 300 yards. This defense that had replaced 7 starters was supposed to be the weak point is now the strong point. There's no big changes on the offense except for 2 people on the offensive line, and they look great, and they're clicking at the right time. This is championship phase, and all I'm saying is look out. I mean, we're seeing holes open up on defenses in Ohio State and LSU, but Clemson seems to be getting stronger in a lot of facets of their game. So I'm excited for that. Let's take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to go over our championship week picks against the spread. So just the conference championships. We'll let you know what we think, who's going to win. Alan and I, we've been doing pretty well against the spread this year, so we're excited about that. Again, make sure you check us out over on Facebook, YouTube, The Roar, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show with my co-host, Big Al, Alan Adams. Open phone lines over on the Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina hotline, 864-772-6674, 864-772-6674. We have 2 open phone lines right now. Jump on and get in. We'll make sure you get in during the live show, and make sure you let us know in the comments what the update on the Clemson basketball game is. I'm thinking about doing a play-by-play after this, but then, my throat, my voice is kind of killing me right now, so I don't think I'll be able to make it, but I might just go straight to bed. But, we pride ourselves in making sure that you have a high-quality show every week to watch about Clemson, specifically Clemson football, basketball, baseball, anything the Clemson Tigers. We pride ourselves in bringing you great content and great production. And with that, we'd like to make sure that we dress for success as well. TS for success is actually what I found out recently, Al. It's called hashtag TS for success. So Tiger Sports for success. Instead of dress for success, it's TS for success. So if you didn't know, our exclusive apparel provider is Tiger Sports Shop in Clemson, and it's tigersports.com. If you're checking them out, hey, it's getting holiday season, so make sure you check out tigersports.com for all your Clemson athletic gear and equipment and your clothes and hats and, whatever else they have over there. They have a ton of stuff. 2 stores downtown in Clemson, so go check them out. I'm actually wearing one of their polos, exclusive Tiger Sports Shop lineup, and I really love it and enjoy it, and I appreciate Sean and Julie for sponsoring us. Al, what you got?
I'm wearing one of their Cutter and Buck Dry Tech polos. This is one of the lightest polos I have. Obviously, it's got the orange and black plaid on the white base. This is a great shirt. This is one of the lightest ones they have. It's a great casual shirt. It's a great golf shirt. Obviously, anything they have is fantastic over there. Be sure to check out their Tiger Sports Shop branding clothes. Kind of like Morgan is wearing. He's got one of their exclusive Tiger Sports Shop brand as well. But they have several shirts. They're trying to experiment with some new stuff. They're getting, it's high quality stuff at a little bit more affordable price. So I definitely encourage you to check all that kind of stuff out. Like you said, any kind of gear you want, it doesn't really matter. Shorts, sweatshirts, hats, polos, T-shirts, anything, they've got it. I promise you. If they don't have it, you're not going to find it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So check them out, Tiger Sports Shop. Their downtown location or on the US 123 bypass. It's Tiger Sports Shop has always been the Clemson store. I've always gotten my gear there. I always love to get their stuff, and we appreciate their support.
If Audrey's listening right now, I'm running out of tea. I'm about to be floundering here. I'm sucking back this sweet tea or this hot tea. Debbie, I need your help. I need somebody. But anyways, I appreciate so much everybody joining the show. Again, my voice is kind of, on the edge of losing or being gone from the show. But we have 25 people watching over on YouTube, and Randy's saying make sure you do a play-by-play afterwards. Alan, we had 60 people watching me last week for the Colorado game, Clemson versus Colorado. Till 1:30 in the morning, I did play-by-play, and I'm telling you, man, it was so fun to do because I felt like I was right there in the game. I had never done anything like that before, but it was also heartbreaking because I put so much effort into it. I felt like I was part of the team, and then they lost with about 3 minutes to go.
Yeah,
really let the team come back, on free throws. Oh, it was so frustrating. They were up by 10, I believe, and they were up by 12, and they let them come back on free throws, and it was so frustrating, man, so frustrating. But we got 25 over on YouTube. Looks like we got a couple people over on Twitter. I can't see everybody on Twitter, but how many people we got on Facebook?
We actually have 25 over here on Facebook. Just jumped to 27 over here. I saw Stephanie get in, and we know we like to talk to Georgia, with her and give her a hard time about her Bulldogs. Well, me give her a hard time, and you try to be the apologist for them. So we got I saw Tyler joining us as well over here. So we got a couple newbies over here hoping to talk about some more college football. Man, it's spread pick time. This is one of the most popular segments right here. So let's get down to it.
All right, yeah. So let's get over to segment number 2, and that is our championship week picks against the spread. Let's start off with the Pac-12, Al.
All right.
So number 6 Utah versus number 14 Oregon, or is it Oregon? I don't know how people say it, but I like to say Oregon. They're at Levi's Stadium, which is a stadium that Clemson Tigers are familiar with. It'll be 8 p.m. on ABC, and Utah is -6 starting out the gate. Utah, to me, has the better defense. They have a rushing and passing attack that I think is really good. I like their guy, Zach Moss, over 1,200 yards rushing. Their offense typically puts 35 points up a game, and I feel like they can hang with anybody. They have a top 25 offense and a top 5 defense, and I'd like to see them as the number 4 team in the nation. when it's all said and done. So give me Utah minus the 6.
Yeah, I actually agree with a lot of what you said there. I think their defense is fantastic, particularly their defensive line. I think it's one of the best, if not the best in the country. Al gets in just in time for our spread picks. He's always great about giving us his picks as well. Utah's looked really impressive all season with the exception of their hiccup at Southern Cal. Oregon's coming off a loss to Arizona State a couple weeks ago, and they had a relatively pathetic showing against Oregon State this past week. Give me the Utes, minus 6.
The next one is the Big 12, a team that could be left out after it's all said and done, even if they win the championship game and only have one loss because of things that have happened during the season and because of the schedule that other teams have played. They may not be able to make it in. Some people are saying Baylor might squeak in. Some people are saying Oklahoma might still squeak in. You never know, but I find it hard to believe that Oklahoma would jump Utah, considering they haven't jumped them yet. But you've got number 9 Baylor versus number 7 Oklahoma. You heard that right. It's a rematch. But this time it's at AT&T Stadium at 12 p.m. on ABC. And I want to go back. I believe that Pac-12 game is on a Friday night. They're actually going to play a day early, so that's why that one's at 8 p.m. This one's at 12 p.m. on ABC. Oklahoma starting out the gate minus 8. What you got, Al?
Oklahoma minus 8. Wow. Okay, that is different than the line I looked up. I had it was Oklahoma minus 10 when I looked at it earlier. Look, my gut tells me the Bears cannot mentally recover. Having to face a team that broke their hearts at home and that gigantic comeback a few weeks ago. But in a nod to Chip and Joanna, I'm at least going to take the Bears to cover for this game. So I'm going to go with Baylor plus the 8.
You're going with Baylor plus the 8. For me, the Bears had an epic choke at home.
Yep.
And we're up. I think they were up by 3 scores or something like that. It was crazy.
It was bad.
But they ended up losing by 3 at home. This is going to be at a neutral field, but AT&T Stadium is a place where Oklahoma is used to. Jerry's World, right? And so I'm going to take Oklahoma in this case. I believe Oklahoma will be able to beat them. 10 and 8, though, that's a big difference there. 8, you can beat them by 10. But with 10, you're going to have to beat them by 13 or 4 or 16, something like that. You're going to have to beat them by 2 touchdowns or a touchdown, 2 field goals. So you would think it's not that big a deal, just a couple of points, but it is. That's the way Vegas kind of tricks you there. You got to really think about, okay, well, can they, what's the odds of them scoring 2 touchdowns, or what's the odds of them scoring 2 field goals? You got to think about that. But here's one, Al. I don't know if you included these because they're not really like the marquee games of the weekend, but I got the Sun Belt up here, Louisiana versus number 25 App State at Kidd Brewer Stadium in Boone, North Carolina, 12 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. App State is minus 6 for the Sun Belt Championship. When I look at them on the stat line, they look pretty even, but since they're playing at home in Boone, I'm going to go with App State.
Yeah, App State's only loss this year came in a stunner to Georgia Southern. Okay, a lot of people did not see that coming. That includes road games against South and North Carolina. App State both got big wins there. The Raging Cajuns have been pretty impressive their own right, to be honest. They only lost to Mississippi State and to App State. So this is obviously a rematch. I'm giving the nods to the Mountaineers. Okay, I think they will cover right there. I'm going to take App State minus the 6 as well.
And the next one up is the MAC Championship. That's Miami of Ohio versus Central Michigan at Ford Field in Detroit, 12 p.m. Eastern on ESPN2. Central Michigan is minus 6. Jonathan Ward, their running back, has over 1,000 yards rushing for the year. But get this, Al, Jim McElwain. Have you heard that name before?
I have.
He actually is the first-year coach over at Central Michigan, and they went 1-11 last year. Talk about Coach of the Year. He has a chance, I believe, to win 9 games this year in his first season. They were picked by most of the media to go dead last in their conference, and here they are playing for the championship game as a favorite. So give me Central Michigan.
Yeah, Miami, Ohio Redhawks had a really rough start to the season, but they won 5 in a row before dropping their last game, and my mind may change on this by game time, but I like what McElwain's done there so far. So I'm going to take Central Michigan as well, minus the points.
All right, and the next one up is Conference USA. This is a team that my aunt graduated from in her graduate degree. UAB, Alabama Birmingham, versus Florida Atlantic at FAU Stadium, 1:30 p.m. CBS Sports Network. FAU minus 7.5 right now as the favorite, but there's a little bit of, off the field action going on for Florida Atlantic. Lane Kiffin is in serious conversations to become Arkansas's next coach. This is something that has just started this Monday afternoon. UAB has been in the championship game the last 2 years, but Florida Atlantic is the favorite and has won their last 5 games very convincingly. Even with the off-the-field things going on with Lane Kiffin maybe leaving, give me Florida Atlantic.
Yeah, both teams have had their highs and lows this year for sure. It's one of those teams, FAU, I like to take to cover spreads, especially with Lane Kiffin and the offense that he runs. I like the fact that he can put up some points. But, like you said, with the talks with Arkansas, with the kind of unrest and not really knowing what's going on, I'm just going to jump on a hunch here and take UAB to cover here plus the 7.
Yeah, that's a tempting one to take for sure. I thought about it a couple of times about taking them but the thing is when I don't know much about them, I try to lean on the favorite. I don't want to. I can't risk it. I did a couple of weeks ago, risked it, and went with a bunch of underdogs, and it hurt me bad. So got to be careful. But even though I know that you're ahead of me, I may want to change my pick after that. By the way, Al, you got in my head over the week, and I ended up. I don't know if you noticed this, but I kept Wisconsin, and I changed my pick to Pittsburgh. Because of what you said in the show.
Nice. Good call.
And I was like, you know what? Alan's right. I went off my formula. I know that Steve Adazio is I know that they're fighting for a bowl, but that's not my formula. Emotions are not my formula. And then I lost. So
you blew it. Big time.
I picked Pittsburgh. I picked BC on the show. I picked Pittsburgh on the game and on Yahoo and lost it. So that's what I get. But anyways, the good thing is you picked Pittsburgh anyways too, so I didn't lose any standings, any ground to you. But
right.
Stay with your gut. That's the moral of the story there. But by the way, they just fired Adazio, which was kind of a shocking move. Packer and Durham were very shocked this week because he's been such a great coach and seemed to be such a great fit for BC. I don't know what they're going to do. It's kind of weird. You win a game against a team that you were an underdog to go bowl eligible, but then you get fired. I don't really know, but we'll see. We'll keep you updated with what happens over there at BC. The American Championship, number 19 Cincinnati versus number 18 Memphis. Again, this is kind of a broken record here. They just played last week.
Yeah.
And so this is going to be at the Liberty Bowl in Memorial Stadium at Memphis, 3:30 p.m. ABC. Memphis, again, is the favorite, but this time they're minus 10, and they won by 10 just last week. So I think Vegas is onto something there and kind of looking at the previous game and saying, okay, you won by 10. Well, let's give Cincinnati 10 and see what you can do. And for me, Memphis is just such a high-scoring team. I'm just going to go ahead and go with them again. Give me Memphis minus the 10.
Like you said, they played this last week. They won by 10. It was on Memphis home turf. But Cincinnati had 4 turnovers in that game, including 2 fumbles, 1 interception, and 1 on downs. All right, so in a revenge game on a neutral site, I'm going to take Cincinnati Bearcats to cover.
That might be one I change my pick on later on in the week. I don't know. You just convinced me a little bit. You just changed my mind. The next one is the Mountain West, Hawaii versus number 20 Boise State. Now, they played earlier on in the season also. Just nuts, just how many teams are already played each other. But they're going to be playing at Albertson Stadium in Boise, Idaho, 4 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. Boise State's coming out a 14.5 favorite. Hawaii is giving up 430 yards per game. And Boise State just destroyed them earlier on in this year, 59-37. And 16 of those points at the end of the game were with like the third string in there, kind of like a Clemson game. So give me Boise State minus the 14.5.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said there. They beat them by 22. Boise State beat Hawaii by 22 earlier this year on their home turf. And like you said, a lot of those points were scored late when Boise State was on cruise control. So I don't think the neutral site helps Hawaii enough here. I'm taking Boise State minus the 14.5 as well.
I like it. Big Ten. This is a big one here.
Mm-hmm.
Number 1, Ohio State versus number 12, Wisconsin at Lucas Oil Stadium. I believe that's the Indianapolis Colts Stadium at 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox. Fox likes to carry those Big 12 or Big 10 games, Big 12 and Big 10 games. But Ohio State coming out the gates minus 16.5 favorite. Can they beat them by 21 again? Well, they beat them by 21 last time, but Jonathan Taylor didn't show up. He had less than 50 yards rushing. Wisconsin couldn't hold Chase Young back. I mean, he caused 2 fumbles, and immediately they scored a touchdown right after that. But did you know, Al, at the beginning of the third quarter and a few minutes into the third quarter, the game was 7-10. Mm-hmm. So it was pretty close to start out. Chase Young caused those 2 sacks/fumbles, and then it got out of hand for him. Wisconsin had to go away from starting with Jonathan Taylor to open up the pass and just started passing it and caused even more problems for them. I don't know. I don't know how Wisconsin's going to do on this game. I feel like I have to go with what Ohio State has already been doing. They beat up Michigan, and I believe they're going to continue to roll. I think they can do it again. So I'm going to take Ohio State again for the win against Wisconsin, minus 16.5 on a neutral stadium, or neutral site.
Yeah, I took Wisconsin in the game early this year thinking Ohio State wouldn't quite look so hot in their first real test. Wrong. Okay. It did not work out quite like I'd hoped. Obviously, like you said, at halftime, it was not so bad, but then Ohio State got rolling and just took him to the woodshed. I was really embarrassed. I thought the Badgers were going to do me better than that, and they just couldn't do it. So I would be kind of crazy to take them right now, even though the Badgers are playing good football. I'm not going to fall for that trap right now. I'm taking Ohio State minus 16.5.
I figured you would pick Wisconsin on that one. I don't know. I just was thinking that you were going to go with them, but it's nice to see that you've come over to the Ohio State side of things. That way, at least that won't be one I'll lose if Wisconsin wins. But the SEC, this is one that's college game day matchup here. Number 4, Georgia versus number 2, LSU at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. That's in Atlanta. That's the Falcon Stadium, that brand new, beautiful stadium there. 4 p.m. Eastern on CBS. LSU is coming out as a favorite, minus 7.5. To me, Al, Georgia doesn't have the offense to keep up with LSU. And what's about to happen to them, LSU just torched Texas A&M by 43 points. And I don't see anything different happening to the Dogs. Even though you're going to tell me that their defense is a whole lot better, I don't think that Georgia has proven anything to me to show that they can show up and hold a game and win a game in a game that matters, in like a championship game or a big time, pivotal game. So I don't trust Georgia because of, how they've floundered over the past couple of years in big games. And I think LSU just has so many weapons to just destroy you with. And they're really on top of the world right now. I wouldn't have them at number 2. I'd actually put them at number 1 because I don't see any reason why Ohio State should have jumped them other than politics. But give me LSU minus 7.5.
Minus 7.5. Okay, the line has changed from 6.5. If there's a defense that Georgia can score against other than Georgia Tech's, it's LSU's. And that's a weird thing to say because LSU is obviously known for their defense at times, and not this year. I think the Tigers have not done well in the department of defense this year. I think everybody knows that. The whole country knows it. They've seen it. A lot of points have been scored on them this year. But even as good as Georgia's defense is, and they have been good all year, really, I don't think it's going to be enough to slow down this LSU offense. The offense has carried LSU all year. I think it will continue to do so. So give me the Tigers from the fake Death Valley to cover the 7.5.
All right. I thought you were going with Georgia there for a minute, and then you kind of said, give me the Tigers. So, like I said, I think Georgia definitely has a better defense than most. But they just can't keep up with people. They don't score a ton of points. They had a close game against Texas A&M at home just a few weeks ago. And so based on that, I can't pick them at all. Whether it's 6.5, whether it's 7.5, I can't pick them. Really, I don't think if you gave me 20 points, I would pick Georgia, really, to be honest with you. I believe LSU just has that much firepower. But let us know what you think over in the comments and on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter. If you want to get in on the conversation, again, our call-in number is the Buffalo Wild Wings of Greenville, South Carolina hotline, 864-772-6674. You got 1 minute to get in. 1 minute. If we don't have a caller by 60 minutes mark, then it just went out. It just popped up for me. I'm sorry. The phone lines are officially closed tonight. So apologize for that. If you didn't get in, maybe you can get in next week. But we do this every week, and we have the Buffalo Wild Wings hotline for you if you want to get in. Now, for the rest of the show, you'll have to let us know in the comments. So over on Facebook, YouTube, and again, we're triple casting, if that's even a word, over on Twitter as well. Right now, Al, we have 22 over on YouTube, and running strong. Clemson Carson, Randy, Nice Guy TV says, let's go. And Timothy Lee, and wants to know about Virginia. We're going to talk about Virginia in our third segment. But Al, what you got over on Facebook?
We got 27 right now. I saw Nick get in. Al's been giving us his picks as usual. Trey's in as well. So we got a lot of activity over here. We need to get some more conversations, some more questions over here on the comments. And because we like to know your thoughts. We like to be engaged with the audience. We appreciate all the support as always.
Yeah, we appreciate it again, and we'll be right back after this. When we get back, we're going to talk about Clemson versus Carolina game, and then the Clemson versus Virginia ACC championship game, maybe a little bit of basketball before we jump over to the basketball game and watch it to finish out the night. But you can check us out over on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, the Roar Radio, and anywhere you listen to podcasts. We'll be right back after this. Welcome back to the Morgan Thomas Show with my co-host, Big Al, Alan Adams. So, again, you can check us out on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, the Roar Radio, 105.5 FM, 97.5 FM in Spartanburg, and anywhere you listen to podcasts, we'll get it out to you. Apologize off the top. My voice is about to be gone. I ran out of my hot tea. Miss Debbie, I need you here to give me some more hot tea so I can finish out the show. But Al, tell us about our Segment 3 sponsor, if you will.
Not a problem. Our Segment 3 sponsor, ladies and gentlemen, is Heating Cooling Services, Inc. They are family-owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating Cooling Services, Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventative maintenance of your home HVAC system to overhauling a commercial chiller and anything in between. If you want to breathe easier and be nice and cool in your home or business this summer, give Heating Cooling Services, Inc. a call today. Ask for Mark or Jason Trammell. Their phone number is 864-224-7655. Again, that phone number is 864-224-7655. These are people we have used. These are people I have known for a long, long time. They have saved me a ton of money. They are good people, and they will take good care of you. Make sure you tell them we sent you at the Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al.
Al, looks like we're struggling right now. The Clemson basketball team, 17-10 against Minnesota. But as we said before, Minnesota is a pretty difficult matchup for Clemson to go against. Really, to be honest with you, the next two games for the Clemson Tiger men's basketball team is going to be tough. They've got to play Minnesota, and then they got to turn around and play Florida State, which is a team that is a top 25 team. Even though they're not ranked top 25, they should be ranked. They're a very good team. They're a team that's very difficult to beat in Tallahassee, and so I don't think that Clemson's going to, it's going to be tough for Clemson to come through with one win out of these two games. But the next four games after that, throughout the rest of the December, Clemson has a really good chance at. So, excuse me there. So, I got 21 over watching on YouTube right now. How many you got on Facebook, Al?
We got 24 right now. We got Stephanie. I think it's actually Evan. I think Evan said he was on his mom's account. He's in here asking who we think are going to be the biggest playmakers in the game against Virginia on Saturday. Evan, hold that thought. We will get to that in just a minute.
All right, let's get over to our segment number 3, Clemson Tigers week preview and review, really. Clemson versus Carolina helmet stickers. Let's start us off with kind of what we did last Saturday. Clemson versus South Carolina, obviously it was a big win for the Tigers. Wasn't really that, exciting of a game from a fan standpoint. Carolina couldn't really get anything going, barely got up across the 50-yard line. They were held under 300 yards. I believe they were held under 200 yards too, is why I'm not exactly sure about that, Al, but only had 3 points. And Clemson dominated again. They won their 6th game in a row against the Carolina Gamecocks, South Carolina Gamecocks there. So, Al, what were your thoughts about the game, and who's your offensive helmet sticker for the game?
Well, I mean, like you said, it was kind of complete domination. Al gets in and says that this year's Clemson USC game was one of the most boring games in the series that I've ever seen. Just no spirit, and he's 100% right. I think Clemson came in, knew that they were going to take care of business. Unfortunately, I think South Carolina fans knew the same thing. So it's not like there was a bunch of trash talk or there wasn't a lot of spirit in the stands. At least not after that fourth down and stand at the goal line. That was kind of their peak. Unfortunately, that was on the first drive of the game, and it was all downhill from there. Because Clemson just took over. There's just too talented, too many playmakers, and just kind of did what they do. It was an interesting game. I was not a fan of the play calls on the four downs at the goal line. Okay, I give Tony Elliott a hard time at times, but I mean they ran Travis Etienne up the middle four times. Should he be able to gain 3 yards on South Carolina's defense? Yeah, he should. But they have some good players on the interior of that defense, on the whole defensive line, as a matter of fact. And I just don't think running it up the middle 4 times was the way to go there at all. Now there's something to be said for just completely dominating your opponent. Okay, to go into South Carolina, say we're going to shove it down your throat, ask you how you like it. That is going to be awesome. Okay, that's good stuff. Unfortunately, didn't happen. So they had a huge momentum swing there. And in college football, like we said, anything can happen. But that was all the South Carolina Gamecocks did the entire night, and that's the way I liked it as well. As far as helmet stickers, yeah, I gave my helmet sticker on offense to Justin Ross. He had 9 catches for 111 yards and a touchdown. He was the one that had that touchdown they reviewed. They actually called out of bounds initially. Once they reviewed it, they saw he got the toe down. That was a big catch for Clemson, as it essentially stepped on the throat of South Carolina and kind of ended it.
Yeah, I like what Justin Ross did. I'm glad he's kind of getting into form towards the end of the season, and him and Trevor Lawrence are hooking up. Really almost gave this helmet sticker for me to Trevor Lawrence because of how many dimes he just threw that game. But I ended up giving it to Travis Etienne, a guy who has multiple winner this season, a guy we're going to miss dearly for sure, but he breaks the ACC career touchdown and rushing touchdown records, 57 touchdowns career, 53 rushing touchdowns total. So I give him the helmet sticker on offense. Man, just what a great and awesome running back he's been for Clemson Tigers. I believe either the Roar or Kelly Gramlett came out and asked, is Travis Etienne the best running back Clemson has ever had? I'd say he'd be up there for sure. He's going to be somebody who I think, if you really look at it on an individual standpoint, without having to share time with someone like a James Davis, having to really be relied on for everything, because Tavian Feaster didn't turn out to be that James Davis type person. He kind of just turned out to be kind of like a consistent, reliable running back, but not a guy who was going to take over or ever be a starter kind of guy. But when Etienne came in and what he did, growing himself up and becoming, basically a preseason Heisman candidate, I think, if you look at his whole body of work, for me, I've always been a CJ Spiller lover, and I have his jersey signed and autographed to me, but I've got a feeling that I need to go get me a number 9 jersey.
Yeah, you've been on the Travis Etienne train, obviously, from the beginning of the season, pushing him for the Heisman. So I'm a little disappointed that you say he would be up there. Okay, look, I haven't been on the Travis Etienne train, but I've always loved Travis Etienne. He's a great running back, and there's no question about it. He is the best running back in Clemson history. Okay, you look at the stats, look at what he's done, and he barely plays into the third quarter half the time. He is the best running back in Clemson football history. Mark the tape. It doesn't matter what you say. It's happening. Hopefully, we have another one like him soon, but I doubt that, because he can just do it all, man. That guy with the ball in his hands is absolutely fantastic to watch, and we knew that was going to be the case a couple of years ago for sure. So we're really going to miss him this year, definitely. What do you got on the defensive side of the ball there, Morgan? What you got for your defensive helmet sticker?
Well, for defense, I really, a guy I also love from the beginning of the season, that's DK. Darion Kendrick had a nice interception at the beginning of the game. It kind of set up after that failure on the goal line, which, to be honest with you, if you look back at it, Travis Etienne didn't hit the hole. I mean, there was a hole there, and he went to the right instead of going straight. And so I believe he could have got a touchdown there. But Darion Kendrick was able to get the interception off of Helinski, and it kind of set the tone to say, hey, you got no chance in this game, and kind of Clemson took it and scored right after that. So give me DK on defense with the helmet sticker.
Yeah, and that's a good pick there. I actually did mean to mention that there was a hole in one of those plays that Travis Etienne actually missed. But hey, then you saw it later in the game. They gave him the ball and ran to the outside, and what did he do? He walked in. All right, that's kind of what I'm looking for there. Get him in space. He'll beat a player one-on-one every single time. On defense, I actually went with Isaiah Simmons. Go figure, right? Same old for Isaiah Simmons. 10 tackles, 7 solo attack, and 2 tackles for loss. A sack and 2 tackles for loss. I mean, this guy's crazy good. I think he may be the player we miss the most going into next year, and that's saying a lot when you're losing a Travis Etienne and you're losing a T. Higgins or somebody like that. But Isaiah Simmons has just been a do-it-all on defense. He's kind of the player that strikes fear in the eyes of the opponent. So it's going to be tough to be without him, kind of running around and making every play known to man. But it's he's been good for the Tigers, so we'll wish him well for sure. Hope to see him do big things in the pros. But I gave him my defensive helmet sticker.
For the $2 bill, that's what we give to the team, the best performer on the other team, the opposing team. What did you have? Who did you have that you picked for the Gamecocks? They didn't get much going, so it's kind of hard to pick from. Don't tell me you picked the punter again.
I didn't pick the punter again. I could have, but I didn't. I picked somebody. I'm not sure if I can pronounce her name. I picked Kingsley Enigbare. He had 6 tackles with a sack and a tackle and a half for loss. Look, he gave the best effort, and he also gave the most dirty play when he nailed Trevor Lawrence in the back after the ball had been thrown. I think that was a pretty egregious foul there. He did get called for it, but karma actually reared its ugly head late in the game. He kind of left with an injury there later, so it kind of all comes back around. But yeah, that was a really dirty hit. Unfortunately, very disappointed to see that. It's something that can not only ruin a game but ruin a career in a heartbeat. So luckily, Trevor kind of escaped unscathed from that.
For me, it's the white towel chain. That's who I'm giving my helmet sticker for. I couldn't bring myself to pick an actual player in this game, so I went with that nice. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about. They give you white towels. Which how much money do they spend on these ridiculous towels? But they have white towels on the stadium seats, and then towards the third quarter, the South Carolina fans, there were not very many left. But they were also so bored that they started tying them together to see how long they could create the chain. And I thought, you know what? Golf clap. Great job. That is the best use of your time in that situation is to try to make something out of nothing. And anything that has a Gamecock on it is definitely worth nothing. And so to try to make something out of that like a giant rope is, pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I got to say, not Clemson engineer impressive, but definitely South Carolina engineer impressive. So, but I'll give you the $2 bill there. That's really it for the Clemson Carolina game. To be honest with you, Al, I mean, I like games where they're competitive, and that's something I've had to wrestle with as a Clemson fan this year and last year, because when the Tar Heel game happened, when the Pittsburgh game happened, when the Syracuse game happened, we had so much to talk about. We had so many thoughts and ideas and suggestions. And I know a lot of people jump on that. They're like, oh, well, now they do something bad, and now you're trying to be an armchair quarterback. But that's the fun of being a fan, is that you can put your opinion out there. Nobody will ever listen to it probably, but you can put it out there, and you can be that invested to where you want them to get better, and you want to find ways to help them get better, even if it falls on deaf ears, right? So, I miss those competitive games, but I also really love and enjoy blowing everybody out.
Yeah.
So it's tough. I mean, it really is. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I'm just in a weird place right now. I'd like to see a team come up and try to rival Clemson. I felt like Alabama and Clemson were going to be those two juggernauts, but now Alabama's not even in it. And so that, I mean, hopefully Ohio State or LSU give Clemson a really, really good game. That's what I want. A Clemson win, but a good game as a whole. And I'm not talking like winning by 30, 40 points, even though that would still be fine with me. But I would like to see those type of games, like the one where Deshaun lost, really. I mean, the one where Deshaun won. Those were like just back and forth to the very end. You knew that they were the two best teams. And so I do kind of miss that. I do. But
you are emotionally unstable right now. Okay. I understand it. I get the need for a close game. I like close games as well. And the reason I like close games is because I like to hear the roar of the crowd. I've talked about this 100 times when we've talked about the crowd noise. That's what I like. I like the atmosphere. I love it when the fans are going crazy. You can only get that from a close game. Now, when it comes to the South Carolina game, I do not want close games. I want to win by 1,000 points every time. I really want the score. I want to break the record. Okay, that's a random trivia question there. Do you know the record for the kind of biggest margin of victory in college football?
The record for biggest margin of victory in college football? No way.
Yep,
It's got to be something from 1920 or something. I don't know.
Yeah, it was way back in the day. It was Georgia Tech versus Cumberland College, and Georgia Tech won 222-0. So just to just to kind of outdo them, I want to beat South Carolina 223-0 every single time we play them. I don't want it close. I don't care if they win another game in their lifetime. I just don't want it. Mr. Cleveland, I really wish my father-in-law was watching tonight because he would love this segment. He doesn't like close games at all. He wants Clemson to win by 100 every game. I understand the need for some competitive games. I really do. As a fan, I love the atmosphere. I like kind of seeing that. But when it comes to South Carolina, win by 1,000 every time.
Yeah, a lot of people in chat saying, I love good games, but only when if Clemson's playing, I want them to blow them out. So, I'll save the good games, the close games for the Big 12 and the Big 10 and the SEC, and I'll leave all the blowout games to Clemson. So I like that. That's a good compromise. Good job. So finishing up the night, ACC championship game. This is one we didn't talk about during our picks against the spread segment 2. We held it for segment 3. Virginia versus number 3 Clemson at Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time, ABC. Clemson out the gate minus 29. ESPN's FPI, 94.9% chance of winning. But Virginia's on a roll, man. They just ended a 15-game losing streak against Virginia Tech and now are making their way to their first ever ACC championship game. The last time Clemson played Virginia was in 2013. The Tigers won 59-10. Mm-hmm. And, I think that this is going to be very important for Virginia. I mean, it's very, very crucial for Clemson. A lot on the line for both teams. Virginia wants to prove what they can do against and show that they deserve to be where they're at. And Clemson needs to win this game and to move on to the playoffs because, as Dabo said, they don't get afforded any losses. Bryce Perkins just dominated the game against Virginia Tech. Is he going to be able to dominate the game against Clemson? Is he going to be able to sit back almost like a Justin Fields? Maybe this is a tune-up game for Justin Fields in Clemson's eyes. Because when it comes to third and short, third and long, third and medium, more often than not, Bryce Perkins is going to keep the ball in his hands and make a play. But he also can throw the ball. Mm-hmm. He rushed last Saturday for 164 yards and 2 touchdowns. He passed for over 300 yards and 1 touchdown. Now, Dabo came out recently and said that he sees similarities between Virginia and Clemson. They went to their very first ACC championship game, 2009, under Dabo Swinney, and they lost. But they came back and won. They went to their very first Orange Bowl, and they lost really bad. We don't want to bring that up. But they came right back to it, and they won right when they came back to it. Now, I don't know if Dabo was kind of making a jab saying that this is Virginia's first time, and if they're going to follow in Clemson's footsteps, that means they lose. But I think what Dabo was saying is that Clemson's not too far removed from it being their first time in the ACC championship game. So there's a lot to be thankful for in a short amount of time under the tenure of Dabo Swinney. And I know all Clemson fans love and respect and enjoy and wish the best for Dabo and a long tenure as a Clemson Tiger head coach. So the Tigers have been there before. They've been to the national championship stage. They've won on the national championship stage 2 of the last 3 years. With this being so new to Virginia, will they even have a chance to compete? What do you think?
Look, I got to admit, I like what I saw from Virginia when they played Virginia Tech this weekend. They did a good job, like I mentioned before, converting those third and longs. Bryce Perkins kind of taking it upon himself to get those yardage, and he got some big-time chunk plays right up the middle of the defense, obviously, when everybody was in pass coverage. Unfortunately for them, Clemson has Isaiah Simmons, like we talked about with our helmet stickers. I don't know that Brent Venables will put a spy on Bryce Perkins from the get-go, but if he gets loose like he did against Virginia Tech for all those big plays, he certainly will, and I would imagine that would kind of be the end of that for Perkins, unfortunately for him. Clemson's defensive line is obviously a different animal as well than Virginia Tech's, so I think there's going to be a lot more pressure on him. So he's going to have to make some of those decisions a little bit quicker, and if he tries to run, again, Venables is going to scheme against that. As has been for much of the season, Venables' scheme and blitzing will play a big role in this game. I think the potential is there for the Cavs to score some points. Bryce has some ability. He had a very good game this past weekend, like you mentioned. On offense, the playmaking ability of Clemson is simply just too much for the Cavaliers to keep in check over 4 quarters. And bottom line, too many weapons on both sides of the ball for Virginia to keep it close for the whole thing. My final score prediction actually is Clemson 48, Virginia 17. So I'm going to take Clemson minus those 29 points.
And in case you were wondering what I was going to go with, I cannot go pick against the Tigers in the championship game. So give me the Tigers minus 29. That's it really for our show tonight, Al. Thank you so much if you're watching over on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, or if you're listening over on 105.5 FM, 97.5 FM, The Roar Radio, or if you're listening a replay on any of our podcasts, we're at all major podcast servers. So check us out anywhere you can. The Morgan Thomas Show with Big Al, my co-host and good friend. Al, right now on YouTube, we have 30. We jumped up a little bit to 30 watching. As far as the Clemson basketball game, looks like it's 31-24. Minnesota is up with 4 minutes to go in the first half. What you got over on Facebook as we wrap it up tonight?
As we're winding down here, we got 26 on Facebook. Ty gets in. Josh gets in as well. Ty gets in and says, I told you Virginia would take Virginia Tech. Like we said, Ty, I told you on the comment line over here, that was a good call. I think it was a great game as well. Hopefully the Tigers can kind of get off the snide here and score some points and kind of take over Minnesota in the ACC Big Ten Challenge. But again, we want to thank everybody for all the support, on all the platforms we're on. We really appreciate it. We couldn't do it without you guys for sure. We want to be more and more engaged as time goes by. So we want to get more and more viewers. When you're watching us, make sure you like the show. Make sure you share the show. Make sure you follow, subscribe, whatever it is on all the different platforms. Make sure you're doing that. And when you tune in with us, make sure you share it. Okay, that's one of the most important things to me. A lot more eyes see it when you share it with all of your friends. We want to get as many Clemson faithful in here as possible because the more we have in here, the better the conversation is. But again, we appreciate everybody's support.
And again, we are on the road to 1,000 subscribers over on YouTube. So if you haven't subscribed on YouTube, make sure you do so. If you're also a Facebooker, go jump on Facebook. We have over 1,600 followers on Facebook. And if you like Twitter, I'm at Clemson Morgan. We hope you enjoyed watching and listening to the show tonight. That's it for this week. I'm Morgan Thomas.
And I'm Alan Adams.
And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.